at 15 miles per hour. And once again on the outside, under rainy skies, it's 39 degrees. And Robin? Not looking good for the home team on that stuff so far.
No, it's not.
And we're going to go fishing now, right?
That's right. We're going to
F-I-S-H-I-N.
fishing.
Fishing. That's the way you say it in West Tennessee. But anyway, I had a good time doing that too. It was a good segment.
I happened to catch the show last night. I was watching it. And I must comment on how that helicopter music really added to the boat ride across the lake, because it kind of,
helicopter.
You know, it kind of had that music going, because you didn't hear the roar of the engine. So you did a good job on that.
That was good. Well, I like doing it. So, and that was good. And well, we'll talk about this when we get out of this segment. Okay. But anyway, the people that are in it. But we're going to go to Reelfoot now. All right.
Good morning and welcome back to AM Dyersburg. This morning we have a very special guest with us. It's my father, Ed Hogg. The first weekend in March happened to be a beautiful weekend, and it brought out fishermen from all over neighboring states, from Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri, and Arkansas, and probably several more that we haven't talked to today. And what we're going to do is talk a little bit about what these people are fishing for this time of year, and get a little bit of the scoop what's happening on Reelfoot Lake. My father here, who's been a professional guide on Reelfoot Lake and has fished in this area since what, age 13, Dad?
Right.
About 13. What kind of fish do most fishermen fish for this time of year?
Well, this time of year, Robin, is primarily crappie. That's what they're after. Then you have your dyed-in-the-wool bass fishermen, I'm sure, in the upper part of the lake that are after bass today, but it's mostly crappie.
And what kind of pole and what kind of a bait do they use for crappie fishing? Now, I know that all of them are different, but what would you use?
Well, for the most part, it's glass poles with double rigs and minnows. And I still like to use the cane pole. When I get a catfish, I can throw the pole, it won't sink, and I can land the fish.
Now, what might seem is a silly question to you, but when people use live bait instead of a jig or something, what kind of purpose are they trying to, what are they fishing for when they use live bait, in other words?
Primarily crappie. We use jigs a lot too, but mostly in the more shallow water when the crappie are spawning.
Are the crappie spawning right now?
No, they haven't started yet. The water's not warm enough.
And when, do you have a specific date or any time when they normally start to spawn?
Normally at Reelfoot, the crappie will start their spawn around the 15th of April. And your crappie in the real shallow water that go there will spawn first, like around the shorelines and back in the more calm water where it's more shallow and it warms up quicker.
People that come out, we've seen several things here today, people using the basic cane pole, and we've also seen several rod and reels. What is the difference in the fishing when you use a rod and reel? Are they after a certain type of fish when they use the rod and reel?
Not really. Sometimes, of course, your bass fishing, most of it's rod and reel. A lot of people use spin cast reels to fish for crappie, but it's usually more in the more shallow water. And if you notice, most of the boats here have the glass poles and the cane poles out.
Today, this particular spot that we're at, and Dad, I'm a little rusty, you said this is off the point of Green Island?
Right.
On Reelfoot Lake. And we're seeing a lot of open water fishing. So that leads me to believe that crappie fishing you can do in the open water, or if you have a particular bed that you know of, then you can fish there. Where would you have the best luck fishing for crappie?
Well, Robin, a lot of these boats here are really in a thick, stumpy area. The stumps are not showing now. The water's high. Mm-hmm. And then east of this point, this right here is between the point of Green Island and Lower Blue Basin. And the water's pretty deep. But east of this point is some of the main spawning beds. And it's real popular with hundreds of fishermen, as you can tell, a little later on when the crappie do start spawning.
So today, if you happen to have 3 or 4 men that you were going to guide, is there any way you would let us in on some of your secrets of where you might take them?
Well, I would be down in this area somewhere, and but the fish are not spawning, and you have to find them in schools. And It's, you drift, use a trolling motor or oars until what you think is a pretty good school of fish, and you try to stay with them.
So, taking this particular boat that we're in, if we kept the trolling motor on and we just kind of kept on for maybe 10 minutes and we didn't catch any fish, would you say to move on to another area of the lake? And
No, I would just keep fishing and taking my directions as to what I know about the bottom of the lake and the stumpy areas, and go from there.
a lot of people that consider themselves, knowing how to fish goes under a lot of different criteria. If you had to give someone some good pointers about this particular fishing that it's the time of year for, crappie fishing, are there any particular pointers that you could give them?
It would be kind of hard. A lot of what I know, a lot of people don't know. A lot of it's luck, too. A boat right in front of us landing a crappie right now. Frankly, I would have probably been fishing a little deeper than that, but the crappie evidently are coming up toward the top, some of them.
I've heard, being in the DYERSBURG area a whole lot, which is what our viewers are, you hear different comments about people saying, well, I don't believe there are any fish in that lake. On a typical day fishing, say if you came in from work and went out for a couple of hours, how many fish do you normally come back with?
Robin, really, you probably should know that question as many times
Well, I do,
as I've
but they
had
don't.
you out here. You and I have come out in the afternoon crappie fishing, and after just a mess of fish, and we've come in with 25 and 30 fish, and which is really all we're after at that time. And I'm not a numbers fisherman anymore. I go out and catch what I consider a pretty good mess of fish, and I ride or go in and dress them, and there you go with that. Robin, is still a sad fact that 10 to 15% of the fishermen catch 85 to 90% of the fish. That's the way it is. You have to know something about what you're doing. Of course, someone that doesn't know what they're doing, they get lucky sometimes and luck into fish. But when I guided for a living, there were some people that really couldn't catch a fish when I would get in the fish real thick. I don't know what it is, and I've never been able to explain it, but that's about the percentage.
Okay, Dad, this is a good opening. I'm sure you'll probably really enjoy me bringing this terminology up. We've heard the terminology of a knee boot. Can you explain to us what you, being a fisherman on Reelfoot Lake since age 13, what you would consider a knee booter?
Well, really, Robin, that came about years and years ago before my time. And, your real footers, we always wore hip boots. And before my time, the people that came down here that wore the knee boots were primarily farmers. Sandburg, Tennessee was a park then. And they had their knee boots. They knew absolutely nothing about the lake. And so the term knee booter arrived. They would get out and get in the regular fisherman's way, and so the term knee boot came from that.
One of the many, many rod and reels that our family owns, especially my dad, he has brought one of them with him today, and what he's going to do is explain to us a little bit about where this reel came from. So, Dad, where did this reel come from?
Well, this particular reel here was made by a master machinist at the University of Illinois by the name of Dean Bailey, and there's only 5 of these in existence, but it's a copy of the old Reelfoot reel. A lot of people give a jeweler in Kentucky credit for making the first bait casting reel. But according to a Believe It or Not column of Robert L. Ripley's years ago, the bait casting reel was designed, invented, and first fished at Reelfoot Lake, Tennessee. And it was a much bigger reel than this. Now the Keast reel came later, but this is the Dean Bailey reel.
What type of fishing do people do with this reel?
It's a bass fishing reel. Fish for bass with it. It's bait casting. Fly fishing is an old sport, but bait casting is relatively new. It came in the 1800s.
living on Reelfoot Lake all of our lives, we could sit out here all day and talk to our viewing audience for hours about this, but we're out of time. So I'd like to thank our driver, Joey Hogg, who is my brother, and another passenger, Carol Beth Shaw, who's with us today, and of course my father, Ed Hogg, who the two of us could probably sit here and talk through the remainder of the show, but we've enjoyed it, and we'll be back with more AM Dyersburg in just a moment.
There you go, girl.
High five.
You caught it.
Fish. Yes, I did.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hope all you Memphis people enjoy this.
And welcome back in. It's about 10 minutes now before 8 o'clock. Excited about that catch there at the end, weren't you?
Oh, yeah, we were excited.
I could say, though, that was real good, though. I thought that was cute. So.
By the way, if anybody called wanting a guide, my father's retired.
He's retired.
guide.
I didn't put that up in there, but yeah,
Yeah.
he is retired. He used to do that for a living, though, so he knows
for many
he knows
years.
his stuff up there about that. He knows about fishing. You can tell that.
I got so tickled, the part, what I know, most people don't know. I was on the other side laughing. Of course,
Yeah.
he didn't mean it
No,
to
I
sound
know.
like that, but
Yeah, but it's a lot. It really there's an art to it, and it takes a lot of time. I mean, it takes years of experience up there to really figure out where all the good spots.
well, did you notice that he wasn't going to come off of any good
no, you
fishing
asked him
holes,
about the fishing tips, and he was real generic in his answer
like
about that.
pulling teeth?
Yeah. All right, Robin, we're going to come back and do a little bit of news, and you'll be back in just a minute.
All right.
AM Dyersburg time now is 10 minutes before the hour, and we'll be back to take a final look at news after this.